Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast with me, your host, ImperialDane, straight from the Propaganda Ministry here in Denmark. And today I have for you a 1 versus 1 on Beaux Lowlands. Yes, indeed, we will be having a trip through the lowlands. This time set somewhere near, again, yes, the Hürtgen forest. For some reason I'm rather drawn to that. Perhaps might be because I'm rereading the book Victory Was Beyond Their Grasp, recounting the tale of the 272nd False Grenadier Division in the Hürtgen forest, among other bits. Rather interesting, and of course, all of this heavy force rather makes me think of that. So let's stick to that just for the fun of it, eh? At least just for a bit longer. And of course, the forest area of the Beaux Lowlands, rather divided not by just a river, but also by a road crossing it each way, which of course is rather important strategic feature of the map to note. Of course, there's also Kaitasch, but really heavy woods, but rather the river and the road rather makes things a bit difficult. Of course, also the forest right here by the hill. Additional roads have been added by patches to sort of make it easier to sort of get, but still, it's a somewhat more easily defensible position, and usually you'll find the front line sort of going across the river. Although again, the road can also again sort of act as a natural front line. Keep that in mind. And let us go have a look at our opponents. In the southern corner, we are seeing pioneers of Kaitasch of the 89th Infantry Division, Infanterie Division or Grenadier Division, whatever. Pioneers ready there. Kaitasch being a Smurf. A Smurf, what is that, you ask? Well, that's a chap who's otherwise high level, but for some reason, because he's afraid of losses, wants to try out something new, he starts up a fresh profile, which of course doesn't really display his proper strength and all that. And of course it's also because some players would like to play basic matches, of course just want to beat up novices, and again so sort of go for that sort of thing. In those cases they're basically deviant cowards who need a good flogging. In the northern corner we will be seeing, yes indeed, it's the ever handsome ImperialDane fighting for the Yanks. For this reason though, I still thought it would be an interesting fight with some interesting notes. 26th Infantry Division making its way, ready to storm the positions right here in the Hürtgen, force up the Jerrys and get one step closer to Germany and the heart of the Reich. And let us get right to things. Barracks going up, this is the usual thing. I prefer going for a bit of infantry, of course. Gets me mobility, gets me firepower, gets me rifles on the ground. We're seeing a Wehrmacht quarters been going up right here, right at the edge of the base, of course. Some players prefer that, of course, gives them less time for their infantry to leave the base. I personally don't care. I rather prefer getting the deed done as quickly and of course freeing up troops for elsewhere. Of course that might be a bit of a silly effort on my behalf. Of course it also takes longer for the Wehrmacht quarters to go off because the pioneers have longer to go. Other pioneer team heading towards the east though. Not entirely sure, but there we go, taking some points. Of course, it could also mean that the Wehrmacht quarters right there in the west, of course, means he will be focusing on the west rather had he perhaps placed it right here by the eastern edge. Of course, he might have been sort of focusing there, but Wehrmacht quarters in the west probably means he's going to be sending most of his troops right there. Riflemen on the way, engineers sort of spreading out, thus giving me maximum spread, of course, also allowing me to sort of at the same time sort of conduct not only capture of territory, but also sort of reconnaissance by basically finding out which side encounters resistance first. The first side that encounters resistance is probably going to be where the main effort is going to be from the enemy. Although then again he might also be spreading out, sort of going for the same tactic strategy, and that's not unusual, but of course keep a note of that. It can usually pay off a small dividend rather than sort of putting all your eggs in one basket, focusing on one side and then sort of running into a problem which rather loses you it rather quickly. And riflemen heading towards the east, I prefer going for the river as sort of the natural front line. Helps me a bit better and of course gives me a large spread, and of course also the position of an assault on the base, or at least a diversionary assault if I feel so sneakily inclined. Volksgrenadier is heading towards the west, pioneers also, so far our main forces are each heading in the opposite directions. Pioneers and engineers sort of sticking about both sides. And I'm sort of moving in here. I've noticed on the minimap that something's going on here, and of course I'm sending in here, probably expecting either something here or there, and of course keeping an eye on the minimap. They'll probably soon be telling me, yes indeed, there we go. Let's just take off again. Keeping an eye on the minimap is really a great skill to have. Can really alert you a lot to what your enemy is doing, give you early warning, give you early hints. And now we're going to be sort of seeing a very sort of silly running about here, trying to catch these pioneers. Of course, they sort of head up on the side of the barn, which the riflemen can't far away from. And here we're seeing something interesting. I'll just ignore this because it's basically going to revolve them around, running around the barn constantly until a pioneer gets killed. And meanwhile, though, why is he doing this? Why is he sort of wiring this off? Of course, he's currently because he has the time for it, but it's of course the strategic impetuous because he wants to cover his flanks. Barbed wire does that nicely. Of course, it will take engineers to sort of press through here, but of course, until then, it's sealed off from riflemen or other sorts of nasty business. And of course, we'll be giving him some sort of breathing room. Of course, he also leaves the MG42 to cover, because even if one sort of break is made, it will still be one column of infantry right through there, which of course makes it a lot easier for the MG42 to suppress, rather than this entire area having been open. What could that mean? Well, let's just briefly pause. That could mean one rifleman team could go through here, occupying the MG42 while another flanks. Instead, now there will have to be a great amount of effort being focused into breaking up this area into a much more attackable situation. And if it doesn't, or if I don't, and I just go for one point, I'm going to get shot down, and I'm going to be rather quickly stalled. Returning to the front, we are seeing Volksgrenadier heading towards the west. Looks like he's also sort of going for the river as the front line. Engineers putting down mines. Of course, you want to be careful about doing it right in front of the enemy, but in this case, I just felt sort of, well, why the hell not? Sometimes you actually have opponents who sort of forget about it and run straight into the mines. That's what you call lucky, and there we go, hitting the mine, getting quite wounded. Volksgrenadier hunting down my engineers. One loss, though. Securing the east rather steadfastly. And I'm not entirely sure, will I be spotting the barbed wire? Yes, indeed, sort of casually. Oh, right, there's barbed wire. Bother. Of course, you usually actually don't see this, but then again, he's sort of been figuring this out. Of course, having an idea, well, what if I barbed wire this off, making it a lot easier. Rifleman getting under engagement from Volksgrenadier, and of course, he's aware that probably more of my riflemen are right there. So, of course, he can give himself local fire superiority with those two Volksgrenadier teams. Good show there. We'll be seeing more barbed wire. A bit of sneaking about by pioneers in the center. Rifleman moving in to put a stop to that. Supply going up. I'm sort of figuring at this point I want to go for armored cars. The map is rather large, and of course he's laying down barbed wire. I figure perhaps some vehicles can easily break through that, and of course give me mobility. Huzzah for that. Another MG42 setting up here, apparently perhaps wanting to cover this area. Yes, indeed. And of course, this is a rather clever thing to do. What is he doing? Well, his MG42 is out in the open. Of course, it can suppress, but there's of course one thing: troops can fire back before they get pinned. So what is he doing? He's giving it heavy cover, thus instantly making this a lot more survivable, because a lot of chaps have a sort of problem. Well, I'll just play out an MG42, place an MG42 out in the open, it'll suppress, but of course they sort of seem to casually forget that the MG42 will still be a prime target and might easily go down. Another MG42, which means he's going for a rather heavy tier 1, a rather defensive one. And now he's putting down tank traps right here. Why is he doing that? To prevent a vehicle crashing through there. Go figure. Of course, not a bad idea. And now, of course, he's laying down barbed wire here. He's still keeping the MG42s to cover all of these spots, since, of course, he wants to be prepared for any sort of attempts at wire cutting. And, of course, making it a lot harder to break through. Not a bad idea. Third MG42 sending up here, covering the Volksgrenadiers advancing. Of course, due to the size of this map, of course, it's a lot more easy than, say, for example, had it been on Langre or Simon or Angerville. Well, that's, of course, the peculiarities of this map. And getting suppressed, laying down some sandbags, of course, to sort of protect, since you rather figure something might be going on here. But it's too little too late. Getting some losses and retreating, rather figuring this is not going to help me. At the same time, more barbed wire, more flanks being cut off, which of course means this MG42 will only have to worry about these flanks, or this area, which of course makes this a lot more defensible for him all of a sudden. He's got lots of barbed wire, lots of MGs. He's basically got all of his flanks covered, and I can't really make some easy movements. I put up a medic station here, though, since this right central spot here tends to be the main center of fighting. Of course, keeping a medic station, medic bunker, casualty cleaning station right near the hot spot is generally a good idea. Medics pulling in the wounded. Good show. Motor pool going up. I'm of course going to be setting some vehicles in soon so I can do some nasty bits, but at the same time, Krieg barracks going up.
Front shifting. Crowd's grabbing territory from us.
And milk not going properly down my throat. So there we go, T-17 armored car on the way. Of course, we might be expecting some sort of anti-tank gun on the way from him. Pioneers continuing their sort of tank trapping right here. Of course, again, wanting to prevent for this being sort of a breakthrough point for vehicles. Although this area is still pretty open. Perhaps some mines could be a good show there. Engineers moving in, attacking from several points, keeping up the pressure. Getting stopped by MG42 fire. Rather than preparing for a major assault, and of course, I want to sort of move through here, but at the same time I'm a bit lazy. I don't want to hang about too much. I'm impatient. I want to sort of lead a massive assault and fight through here, of course. Breaking through here, sending away the pioneers, ensuring that infantry can move away through here. Of course, I'm completely unaware, so there's an MG42. But there we go. T-17 is ready. Pak-38, though, ready at the exact same time. And of course, this also sort of rather demonstrates why he's sort of leaving this sort of bit open. Why is that? Let's just briefly pause, because it's a straight line. It's going to be a lot easier for his pack to get a nice zone of fire through here, and of course it's going to be a lot harder for my T-17 to sort of make any sort of sneaky bits and get behind it, or well, an M8 for that matter. So again, he's sort of picking the zone for him to fight by using barbed wire and tank traps. Of course, I'm constantly trying to sort of pick away at these areas and sort of break through. At the same time, I'm going for weapon supports in the sense I'm rather figuring, well, I'm going to want some mortars to actually blast away these positions. T-17 moving in. Pak-38 advancing as well. There we go. T-17 opening up on the MG42. Pak-38 steadily advancing to our false Grenadiers. And we might be seeing a Panzerfaust very soon. Yes, indeed. Great shot there. And Pak-38 gets ready. Oh dear, the T-17 might not be making it out alive. And no, out of control into the strategic point. Rifleman arriving, sort of crashing through right into line of the MG42. This is not going to look good. I will have to immediately retreat, having failed my chance right here. That did not go out well. But of course, all is not lost. A mortar is on the way to bombard this position, and more specifically, the MG42 hiding behind the tree. Because if I can knock that out, he's going to be having a lot harder time. And Mr. Kaitasch is not gunning down the medics. Instead, he's going for where they are going, trying to find the medic station. Engineers advancing, opening fire away on the Volksgrenadiers, hoping to scorch the little buggers. Getting one, but the rest are forced to retreat. But in the meanwhile, massive American assault going in. Mortar almost ready. And of course, one thing to note, it's rather easy to cover this spot with mortars, usually from here or here, basically meaning you have a nice advantage. And at this sort of spot, I actually figure, why not get two and keep up the pressure not only at this spot but also at this spot, which I still figure he's probably not going to be leaving with that MG42, which hasn't actually gotten any sandbags, but that might have been an oversight. At the same time though, he's continuing to press on. Now he's heading towards the east, not just sort of being content with more points, but he's sort of wanting to keep me under pressure, keep me spread out. And here we go, some sandbags right here. And a mortar round doing quite a nice bit of damage there, immediately knocking out the MG42 team. Volksgrenadiers quickly remanned. 89th Infantry Division troops, and another mortar round clears out that MG42 again. And dealing with these Volksgrenadiers out here who are rather caught out in the open. This could end up very badly for them. They are retreating, but the Pioneers are still doing a nice bit of harassment right there, securing the center, slowly advancing against this MG42. Only a pack to cover this, and he probably didn't count on a mortar bombarding his positions. But there you go. I rather figure that the key here is firepower that can actually hit him from afar, rather than trying to attack onwards, since of course now a Pak-38 is going to put a stop to any of my dreams of rapid blitzkrieg assaults. Sniper moving in though. Another Pak-38 to protect against sort of breakthroughs here, although then again, seems a bit superfluous since he has all those nice and dandy tank traps. MG42 covering here. Sniper advancing though, might be ready to clear out that MG42, which he's probably figuring I've captured, because why? You always want an MG42 no matter what side you're on. Let us go have a look at Kaitasch of the 89th, desperately counter-attacking to keep the Americans out of the forest. Sniper advancing slowly. Of course, I'm completely unaware of any snipers. And now getting some heavier infantry rather than Volksgrenadiers. Grenadiers themselves the more veteran troops of the 89th, which probably would have been having getting some rather lackluster replacement at this stage, of course, which the Volksgarniers replace. Luftwaffe, Kriegsmarine, Reichsarbeitsdienst, all that. Engineers advancing, sort of trying to rush this sniper, at least force him away. You can only fire one shot, of course. And there we go, bombarding the western positions. No doctrine as of yet. MG42 cleared out. Sniper forced retreat due to the engineers. Panzerschreck ready. And Pioneers laying down mines here, ready for any sort of major assault through these roads. Not a bad idea, of course, since roads are where vehicles will naturally go for. But at the same time, I'm rather figuring, well, he has tank traps right there. That's not going to be much use for me unless I get a lot of effort into it. Perhaps some demolition charges, which of course I might get, but on the other hand, there's this less defended point, in which point I might as well go through here. And grabbing the MG42, rather desperate situation, and a rather figure perhaps I can stop the Grenadiers and the moving in through here. Of course, I'm a bit too late though. Still opening up on the Grenadiers. Mortar retreating, not wanting to be left behind. Artillery fire continuing here. Volksgarniers are within the range of the mortar, and he rather ought to be expecting this, since of course, well, he lost an MG42 here. This is a bit of a bad positioning. Medic continuing the work, rifleman firing away. Sniper advancing. Volksgarniers taking heavy losses. A mortar round moves in, almost annihilating the two infantry teams. Sniper continues to fire away. The west is temporarily secured. The Grenadiers and Pioneers doing their best, but the mortar is ready, setting up. And riflemen are moving towards the west as well. The center is currently in the hands of the 26th. Rifleman advancing, getting hit by sniper, but I'm a bit too careful about this time, perhaps expecting an MG42 be set up. And of course, he's now moved this away since he's already lost several MG42s, and he's rather figuring that I'm probably going to be pressing through here, as I've already shown him I will. I'm not very keen on just attacking from one point. I will always try to break through other paths if one proves a bit difficult. Constantly skirting away from these mines. I'm completely unaware that they are there, but again, I already have a point here that I've broken through. Might as well go for that. There's also still these sandbags, which of course aid in my advance, and he can't really use it because it's right up to his own barbed wire. So advancing, Grenadiers holding the line, grabbing the MG42. Of course, it's placed in a rather wrong direction. Mortar setting up, ready to bombard this area again, and of course I can spot this MG42 due to the riflemen, who are not really in cover behind the sandbags still. The mortar will make short work of that MG42 if used properly. Riflemen in the east, ready to deal with some Pioneers, and looks like the Volksgarniers is setting up for an assault reserve. Still no doctrine. The sniper still sniping away. MG42 taking heavy losses while the riflemen are suppressed, and there we go, MG42 cleared out. Sniper a bit exposed, perhaps. No, he's just firing away. And MG42 setting up to cover this area. No further replacements have been sent in. Kampfkraft center is up, but only infantry veterans to one. Rather than getting out of there quickly, and of course not sending in the jeeps, of course, where there is a pack. Riflemen coming under heavy fire, and now I'm going infantry company. I'm calling in artillery. Why? Basically, what I'm hoping he might be a bit spread out with his attention, and at least I just keep those Volksgarniers occupied. Sometimes that's also the purpose, but here in the west, things have been secured. MG42 once more recaptured, giving me 2 MG42s while he only has 1. Mortar bombarding this position, pack advancing, sniper advancing. Of course, he is aware there's jeep now, so of course he wants to keep his sniper protected with anti-tank fire. Good show there. In the meanwhile, the German commander is pressing through in the east, constantly trying to keep me sort of on the back foot and going for where I don't have any defenses. Well, of course, I'm trying to do the same, and of course, I'm going for the bits where he has no troops. And where do I figure those are? Well, probably where there's a lot of barbed wires, and of course, people who use barbed wire, of course, are hoping to protect their flanks and of course free up troops from elsewhere, which is good. But of course, on the other hand, a concerted player can sort of figure this is probably where there's going to be not so much cleared out. And of course, he had an MG42, but I had a mortar that truffed the MG42, and of course I'm now breaking through in the west, while he's breaking through in the east. While I have absolutely no barbed wire, because I have no pretension of actually being able to hold all 3 victory points at the same time. And of course, that is one of the sort of strategic implications of the Beaux Lowlands. If you're wanting to hold all the 3 victory points, you're going to have to make quite an effort, and you're going to have to suffer some losses. Of course, you'll have to be quite spread out, and of course this will give your opponent to sort of the ability to sort of focus up one strong punch and then sort of knock out your defenses one by one. Since of course they're so spread out, they can't help each other, and of course you've been so clever to set up an mobile reserve. Of course currently I can't really do that. Otherwise, what is the situation? Well, currently I'm holding most of the map. I've broken through in the west, although he's making efforts in the east. Pioneer's also moving in. He's sort of secured his central spot right here with lots of mines, barbed wire and tank traps, but I'm completely ignoring this. I want this, and I want this. I don't want that. That's no good. Of course, he's keeping this quite covered. More snipers, but he's lacking infantry to carry on. He might also be lacking some armor, although a Sturm armory and assault phase is on the way. But at the same time, half-track could have been useful to actually carrying on his own assault, and that's rather his trouble. He's not pushing through here, he's sort of being rather cautious here, and of course I'm bombarding his positions constantly with this mortar, keeping him under pressure, making it very hard for him to set up a strong point right here, which is good, of course. And of course breaking through at all points, because again we both want to break through, we both want to keep our opponents spread out, and of course on the back foot. Volksgrenadier moving in the east, hitting on mine, which I previously placed. Sniper moving in, and artillery being called in here, since I rather spot this with my jeep. Mortar also joining in, artillery flying in, apparently not doing much though. A bit unfortunate, although it did force the German defenders to retreat. Ever temporarily. Riflemen moving in, BARs are now ready. Sniper moving in, opening up on my infantry here. And slowly pulling it back, since I rather realize this is probably going to be not in my favor. Still no doctrine. Riflemen advancing here, 2 Volksgrenadier teams in the east. BARs blazing. And the Volksgrenadiers are rather clumping up now. His stall tactics having rather not earned him any much help more, since of course I'm now breaking through on all points. The mortars rather countering his static defenses. Of course he had no mobile reserves to really counterattack, and he's not doing so. Grenades being thrown in great amounts against all of these Volksgrenadiers. One team cleared out. Oh dear, 2 Volksgrenadier teams, an entire squad of Volksgrenadiers eliminated in one brutal skirmish. Lots of Volksgrenadiers are wounded, dying already, dead. And they have absolutely no medics, and that's rather the peculiar thing about his sort of defensive stall tactics. He has absolutely no medic bunkers to really support him, and for that you really need bunkers to really help with those sort of defenses. Medic bunkers to pull in the wounded, but he has none. Instead I have a medic station to pull in my wounded, and now a jeep moves in, rather spotting this sniper there. We are seeing a Grenadier team nearby with a Panzerschreck, but I rather figure on something sneaky. Calling in an artillery barrage right on them, moving in the jeep, thus forcing things to be awfully close. And of course he's forced to be rather close to the artillery barrage or retreat. And there we go, the jeep presenting a tantalizing target for the Panzerschreck team. But it didn't work out due to the artillery barrage, and he's sort of forgetting it, which rather worked to my advantage right there. Sometimes you have to work on the psychology of your opponent. And that is rather what I've worked on there. Presenting a nice target, a tasty little jeep. While of course presenting a big threat. And of course, for some reason, jeep always trumps artillery in this case, because it's so easy. It's supposed to be easy. He could just get it before it runs, but no, he didn't. I got him. Rifleman pushing on here, getting sniped by that sniper who has so far 8 kills now. Coming under fire though, MG42 opening up. Rifleman getting suppressed. German positions has once more advanced in to cover this area. And the sniper is getting suppressed by the MG42. Mortar rounds landing, hoping to knock out the sniper, but currently holding all 3 victory points and rather encroaching on his positions. His defensive strategy did not last long because he wasn't really able to break through. And of course he's also lacking the bit where he's stalling, but now he's probably going for that, what he wanted. Panzers calling in from the 116th. The Ostwind Flak Panzer might prove a nasty threat. Of course I have an anti-tank gun ready just for that eventuality, because again this is sort of a stall strategy, and that usually involves you get armor or vehicles. In this case though I'm rather aware of that, and of course I've gotten the anti-tank guns ready, or at least one. Since I'm not rather expecting this to really hold. At least not for long. And Riflemen getting engaged. MG42 opening up. Riflemen not looking to it. Pioneers advancing. They are getting flamethrowers though awfully soon. This could end up very badly for my Riflemen. Getting sniped and now scorched in heavy cover. They are extremely easy targets. And there we go. Oh dear, Rifleman team might be lost. Yes, there we go. Unfortunate in the extreme, but it is returned to me. Still no doctrine flame, but I've got infantry, floating a bit of manpower, munitions and fuel. Not good, but at this stage I'm a bit unsure what approach do I want to go. Do I want to launch the attack? Do I want armor? Do I want rangers? What do I want? I'm not entirely sure, because I'm not entirely sure what he's getting. I've not seen the Ostwind, I've not seen anything, but getting rangers, at least figuring out gets those, since they can deal with armor and infantry adequately. Engineers moving in after the sniper.
Down to 200 points.
We got crowds here.
Pioneers getting scorched and once more calling in artillery just for the hell of it. Not the most efficient use of artillery, but I do have the munitions to sort of support it. And I rather figure this way I can at least keep those snipers on their back feet and constantly running. Pulling back all my forces while I move in the Rangers, who of course have the bazookas to deal with this. Moving through in the front here. Mortars being sent in to sort of clear out this area. This MG42 still providing quite the nuisance. Now I'm keeping my Rangers there. Why do I do that? Well, I'm keeping behind the Kaitasch to sort of lure in the Ostwind to get into close. Then what do I do? Then I move in and open up with the bazookas. And there we go. It's sort of constantly moving in until it's rather exposed. The Rangers charge in far up, ready to unleash a fusillade of bazooka rockets. There we go. Down to half health. Good show from the bazookas. They continue the hunt for the Ostwind. And there we go, one shot hits, but it's deflected by the armor of the Ostwind. Not unfortunate. Grenadiers are counter-attacking against these Riflemen who are acting as spotters. And there we go, artillery being called in now. Mortar rounds also landing. Grenadiers though continuing their assault. Mortar clear and artillery fire clears up that MG42, leaving him without anyone. Pioneers advancing towards the east. And he's currently been suffering some rather heavy losses due to, again, the loss of 2 Force Grenadier teams right there in the east. And sort of my strategy of constantly attacking from all sides, achieving breakthroughs, however minor, thus forcing him to divert forces, has rather been slowly working against him. Really turning things in my favor. Rangers getting reinforced. Riflemen, sticky bombs should be ready, and if not already, then very soon to deal with that Ostwind. Pioneers advancing in these, securing these points. Again, he's not just going to sit about doing nothing as well. The Ostwind advances. Mortar rounds landing on the accompanying Grenadiers from the 89th. And I'm finding my support units right there in the open, but I have one thing which he isn't aware of. I have an anti-tank gun. MG42 cleared out, but the anti-tank gun advances. Armor-piercing rounds opens up, and there we go. One hit, one kill. Ostwind not having too thick armor or much health, and an armor-piercing round can really do quite another on German tanks, being able to do more damage than a King Tiger. Riflemen advancing, BARs placing the Grenadiers out in the open, but the Riflemen are advancing in on them. They have automatic weapons, the Grenadiers don't. Thompson SMGs being equipped for the Rangers. Pioneers continuing in the east to seize territory, while Rangers and Riflemen advancing in. Area is secured. And looks like another Grenadier team is moving in with the support of a sniper. No armor. Not much at all. For Mr. Kaitasch, who's just now getting more and more Grenadiers, but not even veterans for them. He probably might have wanted to get some veterans for them earlier. MG42 getting the beat on the Grenadiers right now in the open. And now they're probably going to get counterattacked. The mortar joining in the fun as well, hoping to perhaps catch that sniper. And there we go, getting hit and forced to retreat. Pioneers scurrying away from the east and laying down some barbed wire here to sort of protect against any movements from here directly, at least. Perhaps setting up in the barn to cover this area. Of course, it didn't quite count on the other half. And I'm sort of then pulling off numerous assault in the west and in the east. Hack getting cleared out. At the same time moving in through here, although this is not going to work because I'm going to be moving straight up in the face of the flamethrower. And they get the advantage, killing numerous Riflemen and a Ranger. But they are lost nonetheless. Riflemen taking up positions here. Now only a Grenadier team are packed at the western front area. Some other Grenadiers and Pioneers are ready, but he's really been suffering quite heavily, and he seems unable to really keep up with it, except with more Grenadiers. And I rather fear that spamming Grenadiers will not avail him much. And a firestorm was used, which of course means he's finally gone for something. He's gone terror. He bombed this area with fire, let hell rain down upon earth, forcing away my troops rather swiftly, rather efficiently, although at the same time perhaps didn't work out too well for him. Rifleman advancing, lobbing a grenade probably at these Grenadiers. Yes indeed, and then running away like hell. Not doing much except giving those Grenadiers a bloody nose. Other Grenadiers advancing towards the west. MG42 not covering this area though, that's quite unfortunate. And looks like a minor force advancing once more under the aegis of the sniper, clearing out any heavier support units. There we go, MG42 gun is taking quite a bit. And things are not looking too good either here. MG42 cleared out, Grenadiers have secured this area, have broken through. Artillery called in, hoping to catch that sniper, but sadly no luck. Although our second hope is for the MG42 to clear out that sniper. And there we go, the MG42 gets the sniper on the retreat, the artillery being too much pressure, and he retreats. In the meanwhile, we are seeing Grenadiers right here in the west, sort of holding up area. Now that only leaves a very small assault force of the remainders of the 89th, more veteran troops and some Pioneers, while the rest of the Grenadiers are focusing towards the west, while American riflemen with BARs are advancing. And Rangers and Riflemen are moving through here. Rangers leading the way with their Thompson submachine guns, hunting down the Grenadiers and Pioneers, while in this west grenades are being lobbed at the Grenadiers, taking losses as Riflemen are advancing. Grenadiers moving in a bit close though.
Enemy unit down.
Gunning down a few Riflemen though, although they're at the same time in range of some grenades. Mortar setting up, and there we go, grenade being lobbed at the Grenadiers, causing heavy losses to them, but they are holding their ground for the final. No, they're not, they're running away. Cowards. Although more Grenadiers are now being rushed to sort of defend this area. Mortar rounds bombarding his men, and another Grenadier team moves into this fight while securing the east and also moving through here. The pack finding itself rather exposed, but it is cloaked, so it can make it out of there ever so slightly, ever so quickly. These Grenadiers are still in a nasty position though, but they do force the mortar to retreat. Minor victory. Grenadiers trying to move through here, but they're cut down by the Rangers. No, that was the retreating ones. And they do manage to take this position, actually, forcing a retreat. But the center, though, falls to me. Grenadiers right there out in the open against all these forces. The Riflemen charging in, acting as a distraction, allowing the Rangers to charge in then. And they hunt down the pack first, and of course that's an easier target, and will of course open up for any sort of armor from my side. There we go, pack cleared out, leaving behind only these Grenadiers, coming under fire from the Rangers. Veterancy 1, grenade lobbed. More Grenadiers moving in from the flanks. And the Grenadiers are taking heavy losses against the Veterancy 1 Rangers out in the open. The bazookas and Thompson submachine guns are simply too much for the Veterancy 1 Grenadiers. Small standoff, and the Grenadiers pull back. Only 3 Grenadier teams are now left for the 89th. All of the other infantry has been slaughtered, torn apart, even their minor panzer support lost. Sherman on the way. Could a King Tiger save him? Had he gone for the not for the firestorm, would only have needed one more command point, but sadly he did not. Oh dear. Sherman though is ready. Grenadiers are making ready for an assault in the east. Shifting sides, shifting direction. And I'm going straight into these BAR equipped riflemen. Could find themselves faced with a grenade. Panzer equipped on 1. And the riflemen run straight into the line of fire of the MG42. Bunker not good. Major counterattack setting in here. MG42 recruit. Grenadiers under heavy fire. Only 1 man left. Run, Hans, run! Hits a mine. Interesting. Didn't know I had Lane Mine down there. And the Grenadiers are cut down, leaving him once more short on Grenadiers, but replacement Grenadiers are ready, my goodness. Charging through here in the center where I have no defenses actually. Sneaky right there. Flanks the MG42. Although that does not mean all is safe, because I have a mortar there ready to bombard. And calling in some artillery as well, really keeping his forces under a lot of pressure. Riflemen and Sherman are moving through here, ready to attack the German base. Deciding I might as well keep up the pressure again. Let him feel my breath down his neck, and also feel the imaginary knife being drawn ready to slit his throat. Grenadiers finding themselves scorched. Pack recruits, Sherman opening up on the Wehrmacht quarters. 3 points left. And there we go, a loss for the 89th. A foothold in the Hürtgen forest has been established. The 25th can report a victory to Corps Command. So there you go. So what can we learn from this? Well, barbed wire tank traps are nice, keeping them covered with machine guns to sort of protect against breakthroughs. Also nice. Problem was, though, he hadn't really counted on MG4 and mortars countering those MG42s, and when things came down to it, he really didn't have the power to really counterattack. He used too much manpower on snipers, and while snipers are easily instant kill units, trouble is they aren't really the sort of units to carry an assault, and trouble was he didn't have anything. He lacked the infantry, and the infantry didn't have in larger masses, was lost right here in a moment of indecision or lack of sight, losing him rather heavily. And then sort of he went for the Ostwind, which went in rather supported, was lost, and then he sort of just went for lots of Grenadiers, which just ended up with a lot of dead Grenadiers. Trouble was he didn't really follow up. Probably he lacked a medic bunker, which really would have made an ace in the hole for his plan, and he probably should have gone for the Sturm Armory rather than the Panzer Command, and he probably should have gotten some Nebelwerfers, Stuks, Pumas, something to really help with the defensive aspect, act much more so mobile reserve, rather than doing what he did. But there you go. What worked well for me? Well, of course, getting the mortars, T-17 rushing in, not too well there though. But otherwise breaking through, keeping up the attacks on numerous points, keeping them constantly spread up, running from point to point to try and keep things secure. That worked well. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this fight. If you did, why not subscribe and tell your friends? And if you didn't, well, why not send in a replay of your own? This is ImperialDane saying barbed wire is nice. Cheers.